Did you know that the fluffy, doe-eyed alpaca, yes, the one you might see in countless memes, has a history that spans thousands of years? These gentle creatures aren't just adorable, they're survivors, thriving against the odds in one of the harshest environments on Earth. But how did these animals evolve into the cherished companions and agricultural assets we know today? And more importantly, what challenges do they face in our modern world? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see the alpaca in an entirely new light. Our story begins over 10 million years ago, when the ancestors of the alpaca, known as vicuñas, roamed the plains of North America. These animals were perfectly adapted to their environment at the time, with long, slender bodies and coats that helped them blend into their surroundings. However, a great shift was in store for them. As the continents drifted and climates changed, the vicuñas migrated southward, eventually settling in the Andes mountain range, one of the most challenging regions on Earth. Life at such high altitudes, 13,000 feet above sea level, was not easy. The air is thin, oxygen is scarce, and temperatures can drop to freezing at night. Yet the vicuñas thrived here, gradually adapting over thousands of years. Their dense, insulating coats grew thicker, protecting them from the cold. Their bodies became more efficient at absorbing oxygen, and they developed the stamina needed to survive in such extreme conditions. But here's a twist. Alpacas aren't actually wild animals. They are the result of ancient humans selectively breeding vicuñas for specific traits. Around 6,000 years ago, the indigenous people of the Andes began to domesticate these creatures, choosing the calmest, most manageable animals with the softest wool. Over time, this careful breeding led to the creation of the alpaca as we know it today, smaller, more docile, and with an abundance of fine fleece. This unique partnership between humans and alpacas wasn't just about survival. It was about shaping a future where both species thrived together. But why exactly did humans domesticate the alpaca? And what role did they play in one of the most advanced ancient civilizations in history? The Inca civilization, one of the most impressive and sophisticated empires in history, called the alpaca their golden fleece. Alpaca wool wasn't just soft and warm. It symbolized wealth, status, and prestige. The finest garments worn by the Inca elite were made from alpaca fibers, and the wool was so valuable that it was traded as currency. In fact, the alpaca played an integral role in the empire's economy. The animals were also essential to the Andean culture. Alpacas provided food in the form of meat, fiber for textiles, and even leather. The careful stewardship of these animals allowed Andean communities to thrive in the high-altitude regions, where other forms of agriculture were difficult to maintain. But things took a darker turn with the arrival of European colonizers in the 16th century. The Spanish saw the alpaca as inferior to European livestock, and much of the alpaca population was decimated. The once thriving herds were reduced to a fraction of their former numbers. By the 19th century, the species had been driven to near extinction. Yet against all odds, alpacas endured. Thanks to the unwavering efforts of Andean communities who continued to care for and breed them, the alpaca population slowly began to recover. These resilient creatures managed to survive and even thrive once again, despite the challenges brought on by colonization and exploitation. Today, alpacas are thriving globally, but has this rise in popularity come at a cost? The answer might surprise you. Alpacas may look like the picture of contentment, with their fluffy coats and gentle dispositions, but modern farming practices pose significant challenges for them. One of the main issues is overbreeding to meet the rising demand for their wool. This has led to health issues in some populations, including genetic disorders and weakened immunity. The demand for alpaca wool has skyrocketed, and as a result, more and more alpacas are being bred each year to keep up with production. In some regions, poor living conditions and unethical practices have sparked debates about animal welfare. These animals, who once roamed freely in the Andean highlands, are now confined to smaller, more industrialized farms. On these farms, the focus is often on profit rather than the well-being of the alpacas. This has led to concerns about how alpacas are treated and whether their quality of life is being compromised. Climate change is another looming threat to the future of alpacas. As the Andean glaciers recede and weather patterns shift, the traditional habitats of alpacas are becoming increasingly inhospitable. Many herders now face the difficult decision of whether to continue with their centuries-old practices or abandon them in search of more stable conditions. The alpacas, who have adapted to the high-altitude environment, are now facing a changing world that threatens their survival. But here's the question: as stewards of the planet, how can we ensure that the future of alpacas isn't just sustainable but also ethical? The story of the alpaca isn't just a tale of survival. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's evolving relationship with nature. On one hand, these animals remind us of our ingenuity, turning wild creatures into partners in survival. We've transformed the vicuña, a creature perfectly suited to the high Andes, into the alpaca, a docile and adaptable animal that provides us with wool, meat, and companionship. On the other hand, the alpaca story highlights our tendency to exploit resources without considering the long-term consequences. Take the booming alpaca wool industry, for instance. While it provides livelihoods to thousands of farmers, it also raises ethical questions about over-commercialization. The demand for alpaca wool has grown so much that some farms are sacrificing the health and well-being of the animals in pursuit of profit. The good news? More sustainable farming practices and ethical certifications are emerging. There is growing awareness among consumers and farmers alike about the need to protect the welfare of alpacas and ensure that they are raised in humane conditions. The question is, will these ethical practices become the norm before it's too late? And speaking of sustainability, have you ever wondered what small steps you can take to protect not just alpacas but the planet as a whole? Alpacas are more than just adorable creatures. They are a symbol of the beauty and fragility of life on Earth. Whether it's supporting sustainable alpaca wool brands, raising awareness about climate change, or simply respecting the animals we share this planet with, each of us has the power to make a difference. By making mindful choices, we can help ensure that alpacas continue to thrive for generations to come, while also preserving the delicate ecosystems they call home. So what do you think? Are alpacas victims of human greed, or are they symbols of resilience and hope? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, hit the like button and subscribe to Animal Variation for more stories about the fascinating relationships between humans and animals. Before you go, check out our other videos on the channel. Each one is packed with thought-provoking content about the extraordinary journeys of the animals that share our world.